I think it's hard for me, especially since I didn't have that much free time. I sometimes get burned out a bit when I play the game for too long. If I find it fun to play the game, I think I will remain at the top. But if I get bored of it, I think it's going to be a bit harder. I guess we will see the split. Maybe I will like it, maybe I won't. All of us should just not get too ahead of ourselves, because even though we won, it wasn't really one-sided. Rogue and G2 were still really strong, and they could have beaten us last year, and they could beat us this year as well. So we should just keep thinking that we still need to work on a lot of things to be the best.
Welcome back, everyone, to LEC Summer. Heard of it from Humanoid there. Not being too confident, just saying, yeah, we won, but we have to be ahead of the curve to beat the teams that we might meet in the playoffs. I like that approach, and the Mad Lions and Excel Esports are now continuing week 2. The reigning champions are coming fresh off their first title, as said, semifinals at MSI, and then picking up 2 wins last week. And I do want to look specifically at Humanoid's week 1 and see if there are any changes that we noted from the spring season, Caedrel.
Yeah, it's roaming a lot more, isn't he? I think that comes down more to the Akali pick than actual the playstyle itself. And I think that if you look at this clip just behind us, when Akali pushes in waves, it's really hard for her to hit the tower. If the Orianna is in range, she's obviously going to chunk him out. So what does the Akali do? Roams around the map. Similar to things like Irelia, Yasuo. These champions are very good at roaming around if they can get priority early game against ranged champions. And Humanoid, obviously, roaming around helps a lot if he can get early kills and start snowballing on this Akali, which has been the strongest pick in the LEC so far. He can make carry performances. With 2 MVPs already, he's definitely stepping up.
And it's certainly very good to see this after we were stuck in a meta for so long. It felt like Victor Orianna every single game, maybe 1 or 2 picks outside of that as Zoe, but really there weren't a lot of champions that you would know for roaming, right? A lot more control mages in the mid lane. You can see the activity that Humanoid has had on the map here in this graphic, where he's been, where he's gotten kills, where he's been able to find success. And I think this is big because we saw hints of what this playstyle could look like in spring when he pulled out the Ahri mid lane and he used Minion Dematerializer to get wave prio, early roams for crabs. And the fact that he's continuing to evolve, continuing to expand on this, he's playing side lanes better. I think Humanoid is looking great. I hope that motivation keeps going.
Yeah, and if you look at that graphic, that's actually pre-15 minutes. So that means he's teaming up with Elyoya a lot to actually move around the map to dive side lanes, which is really important. Playing to your win condition, dropping mid waves or getting the push together, and then making sure you snowball your side lanes.
We heard in week 1, both from the Mad Lions and from the enemy team, saying, hey, we're going to pick the things like the Gwen and the Viego because they haven't had that much practice on that. So that's an up for us. The Mad Lions also will now have more practice under their belt this week specifically. Caedrel, do you think we're going to see a distinct change or a distinct uptick in their performance because of that?
Well, I've been playing a lot of solo queue. I've had Humanoid in my team a few times. Every single game he's playing Akali, so I can't say he's been trying the new champions just yet. I can't say about Armut either, but it's definitely the solo lanes you're looking at in this current patch. It's Viego, it's Gwen enabled. All these powerful pushing lanes like Lucian as well, which Humanoid was playing a lot at MSI. It all comes down to early game aggression, I think, their current meta, around the Drakes especially as well, and snowballing around dive. So these champions definitely help out in playing that playstyle.
Yeah, and I would love to see them pull out more flexes, just like Caedrel's weird flex a moment ago with the Humanoid and solo queue. I think there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities to mix it up, and certainly what we saw last week that I think is really important is the fundamentals are still there. The meta picks are not, but the fundamentals were, and so now as long as they've adapted to a new patch, just like every other team has to, because we're on 11-12 now, I think they're going to be in great shape.
We do have a little bit more time than anticipated here, so I'm going to take a minute just to talk about Mad Lions a little bit more specifically, diving a bit deeper into their performance in week 1 and their stats. They were the objective kings. They had, I almost said, God, they were the objective kings. They had a huge focus on those. They were 6-0 for Heralds. They had a very good Baron percentage, the best so far out of all the teams. Dragon percentage as well. What does that spell out to you in a team that is not as, I think, used to the new patch or maybe getting into it because they took a bit of a break after MSI? Is that really okay? If we do focus on the fundamentals and our early game prowess, we should be in a pretty good spot.
Well, I think it's really interesting because if I just heard that stat, I would say that it was Mad Lions relying on team fighting, relying kind of on old, again, fundamentals. But in game 1, what we saw Mad Lions try to do, and almost very successfully, was pull off a 1-3-1, something we really haven't seen standard in meta for a very long time. So the fact that they've done that they've got those good stats, and also in the G2 game, they were, for at least a few minutes, very successfully able to pull off a 1-3-1 without Humanoid dying on side lane, without their members getting caught out individually, is massive for the Mad Lions.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the current meta, I think it's all about who takes the first step. And I think if you look at the LCK, you look at the LPL, 8 minutes in the game when Herald spawns the first bot lane that bases and has tempo and moves to that Herald first, is first on the Herald, and the fight starts around that 5v5s early game. Mad Lions are quick to look for these swaps, and if they don't full swap, they send support up there to make sure they secure it with jungle, and that's how you get the early game snowballing. You get the early Herald, you drop it for a Drake, and then you focus on tower plates.
We can't also remember that we can't forget rather that last season around we were saying how the Mad Lions are kind of like the comeback team. They're the team that doesn't put so much pressure on the early game, but do rely on those team fights to come back in the late game. I'm happy to see the shift in that it is more early game prowess. But as said again, there was a limited, I would say, champion pool in week 1. The ones that they had success up was the Volibear Akali combination 2 games in a row before when it was Lucian Rumble. It didn't work out for them. So I'm looking for, can they show us more on different champions and in different compositions this week?
But then also the other side of that question is, do they really need to show us more? It's very early in the split. The meta hasn't really been figured out. We've got a new patch with lots of champions being nerfed away. I think that if you stick to your guns and start keeping on with the Volibears, with the Akalis, with the Udyrs, the early games will always be strong. Fundamentals are good. You're going to win out games in the early stages of the split, which is always important. If you start getting banned out, I think we'll see Mad Lions push, but for now, they don't really need to show their cards.
No, you're right. I think it's just like, oh, they're the champions. They went to MSI. I want to see more faster, but that's not fair.
I mean, I agree. And I think the fascinating thing about Mad Lions development is we've just seen so many different versions of this team in the short time that they have been in the LEC. At the beginning, they were the scrappy early game team. Then they were the, hey, we're going to come back team fight kind of team. Now, the mid game, interestingly, the mid game has always been kind of shaky, whatever version of Mad Lions has been there. But I think the way that this team evolves is going to be really interesting to watch. I love more engage. I love that style for Mad, but as Caedrel said, they don't need to stick to that style. They have the time, they have the space to branch out because we are so early in the season.
And I think time is the most important thing for Mad Lions. They just came off the back of MSI semifinals. They've been grinding non-stop. Then instantly Summer Split starts. Even Humanoid said he's going to get worse at the game if he gets bored of the game. So I think that Mad Lions' approach should be less scrim time, more personal time. Relax a bit, it's the early stages of split. Don't go full vacation mode, like some other teams have done, but just take a step back, let the Summer Split roll on, and then towards playoffs, ramp it up. I think that's what Mad Lions is definitely going to do.
I think that's fair. As for the delay, rather, we experienced some issues during Champion Select. We're now remaking the draft off air. We'll keep you updated. So let's start by talking about XL. They got 1 win in the Super Week. It was versus Schalke 04 when Dan was on Sejuani, Caedrel. So what do you take from that single win as to what you want to see to have XL be successful in this week?
Now, Sejuani is very off-meta, but if you look at their draft holistically with Wukong and Sejuani and these kind of picks, it's so easy to play the game. It's point and click, go forwards and start a fight. And it felt like XL had more comfort on this kind of style. Dan had more comfort on this kind of style. I think playing things like the Rumble and the Udyr, maybe a bit too much. I think it's just sticking to the guns, sticking to engage, making it very clear instead of the communication being like, where should we set up? When should we set up? When should we look for the turn? You can just press a button and get the fight started. I think that's what XL needed.
Yeah, and I think it just felt to me like Dan was playing a lot more confidently and forcing these ganks. You saw in the Xin Zhao game that he didn't seem comfortable forcing ganks in a difficult map state. That wasn't the case for Joni. He was able to make things work. Of course, Akali also played a big part in their win, but I think that I would love to see more synergy or more work going on between Dan and Nukeduck. I think that there is a lot of promise here if they can continue to make it work the way that they did in their 3rd game last week, but it is still, I think, tough.
Yeah, and I think if you look at most of the teams right now, even when we had Hands on Euphoria, he was saying things like, we need to look for dives when dive opportunities arise. And if we miss these opportunities, we're wasting our early game. And I think you can look at this team, and you can look at Dan on Sejuani. When you're making these dives happen, you're forcing them. Either you're getting kills, you're forcing TPs, you're making them force off the wave, you're doing things in the early game. And this is key, because then you start pushing your advantage. Then the enemy team has to respond. Well, do we cross map? Do we match the play? And the game starts to progress instead of just being a farm fiesta snooze fest. And I think in the meta, when you're just sticking to early game champions and not doing anything in the early game, you just automatically lose against scaling. So having these champions and confidence to give you the proactivity is what these teams need.
I think that's going to be key in this one versus the Mad Lions. Are still the 2nd bloodiest team in the LEC in the early game after Fnatic. XL have had some time to make adaptations after week 1, so we'll see if this will bear fruit today versus the Mad Lions.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. I'm Mehdi, he's Vedi. We are here for the 2nd game of the day as we work through that slight delay that we had getting on into Champion Select. Now, Vedi, we've talked a lot about Mad Lions, we've talked a lot about XL. What are you, like with the Analyst desk we haven't actually talked that much about it. We're just starting talking right now. What are your expectations coming into this game?
Well, I expect Mad Lions to be the clear favourites.
Okay.
I think that their early game has looked far more dominant. I think that Akali has been a large part of their success.
Yeah.
But I also think that Elyoya is kind of like, under the radar is kind of how I would describe him. Obviously, he had a strong regular season that I think a lot of people didn't really start to notice until the end/playoffs because of the position that MAD Lions was in. You know, they ended the regular season, what was it, like 10-8, 11-7,
Yeah, I think
something
so,
like that.
yeah.
So I think that he's kind of doing that thing again where he is having huge impact, but you don't always see it or feel it because it's Humanoid that's getting all these kills on the Akali.
True.
He's definitely someone that I'm going to continue to keep my eyes on, purely because in this matchup against Dan, I think Elyoya is heavily favored, especially after the experience that he's gained from MSI and the growth that he continues to make throughout the year.
Well, I have to agree with you, Vedius. I think Elyoya is one of the best junglers in our league, vying up there to be the best. We'll see if he can continue that form here against Excel. Back into draft we go in game 1. Renekton was banned in the second phase, Gwen was banned in the first, and Rumble wasn't even picked or banned, Vedi. Question is, will that remain for game 2? Is Rumble completely off the menu, or was that an aberration? A mistake, perhaps, in game 1. Thresh, the first ban out here from the MAD Lions.
Europe really does not like Thresh. It seems that Renekton is still considered strong enough to be removed. Akali now being added to the ban table. Seems like a mandatory red side ban, given how powerful it is. Gwen would be the typical last one. Lulu, of course, right now is still up and available. You did mention the Rumble, but I feel like Rumble is one of those champions that teams seem to be willing to play against. Interesting that MAD Lions choose to ban it. Very telling of their priorities, because it suggests that either Armut or Humanoid is not willing to pick it or prioritize it.
I'll say the same about the Ezreal as well. Ezreal is a very strong AD carry right now, probably in a league of his own above Varus and Kai'Sa. And once again, it's banned out by the blue side. Lucian was removed by XL. Karma picked Lulu Xin Zhao immediately. Then the Hecarim from Elyoya was buffed on this patch alongside that Orianna.
A lot. That draft went by very quickly.
And Kai'Sa, there we are. First phase done.
So the Ezreal I'm less concerned about in terms of a ban, largely because it just says that MAD Lions have other priority picks, not that they can't play it, in my opinion, which is fine. The Gwen ban, however, is a little bit more concerning because I feel like if you were to get that OP champion, why would you not get that OP champion? So it does suggest that they don't want to deal with it. However, it could also mean that they had a game plan coming in. And with the Karma plus Hecarim plus Orianna, they're going for a bit more of a wombo combo. As you rightly said, Hecarim's been getting a lot of buffs, more towards the AD Hecarim, do damage Hecarim. And I wonder if the Divine Sunderer build is what we will be seeing from the Hecarim today. On the side of XL, they've grabbed themselves the Lulu very early on. This is one of the fastest drafts we've seen for a while. Both teams clearly very prepared and an idea of what they want.
We did also remake the draft, so it's possible they got quite a way through the draft and had to pick the same things, which is why we've then gone through the second one so quickly.
Potentially. In any case, with the Lulu plus the Xin Zhao coming through, you have a very powerful dive with very strong follow-up. I always think that picking Azir with things like Kai'Sa and Xin is kind of like anti-thematic. Like, they want to do very different things. But I do think that Azir is quite a good matchup into the Orianna. You will be able to get prio in that lane. But let's now just talk about the comps, because that draft went by extremely quickly. So MAD Lions, they've decided to put the Karma up towards the top to answer the Lulu. I think that they expected the Lulu pick to come through. I am curious as to what this Karma will now build, given the changes to Moonstone. On top of that, MAD Lions very clearly have a very well-defined wombo combo teamfight composition. I think that XL too have strong teamfighting tools, but they have a couple more disengage tools at their disposal with things like the Xin Zhao, things like the Azir ultimate. They do have some long-range assets, but they also kind of want to dive. So I prefer the MAD Lions comp a little bit more, but we're going to find out and see how things work out this time around.
On to Summoner's Rift we go. I will say, as you said, Moonstone not the go-to on Karma these days, especially in the top lane. You can still build it, was buffed back up on 11-11 to give you an overall 30% heal and shield power, but I've seen a lot of Shurelias. So that is kind of my expectation on the
Karma is still kind of what I expect.
Yeah, Shurelias is usually the go-to with a support top lane. You can go Shurelias into Putrefier or into Staff of Flowing Water, of course, for that healing. You can even get yourself an Ardent Sensor if you think your Hecarim and your Tristana may be your key carries in these later game fights.
But let's talk a little bit more about this Hecarim, because for those that don't know, Hecarim with Chem Tank was very strong. But prior to that,
was he?
Hecarim was even still strong in the meta for a period of time, just because he was like strong. So Hecarim was like very strong for a very long period of time, and then Chemtank got nerfed, and then Hecarim also got nerfed. And then what Riot did was they buffed him so that he would be like more AD focused.
Yeah, they buffed his Q physical damage.
They wanted
ratio.
to try and shift his build path basically to be more of a like damage dealer rather than a tank that also does insane amounts of damage. So I'm really fascinated to see what Elyoya does build, because it's going to be a slightly different Hecarim to what we've been seeing for a long time. Now, while we were chatting, you can see a bit of skirmishing happening in the top lane, which Armut
has to flash.
Using. I don't think he has to flash.
Oh, okay. He's used one extra corrupting potion stack, but Kryze has flash E here. I'm pretty sure
that's
that
enough
would...
to kill him, no.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Okay.
The Eve really doesn't do a lot of damage this early on. Like, the sustained damage that's coming out from Lulu is obviously quite impactful thanks to her passive. And that's why you can see Kryze having a bit of an advantage here. But I do also want to highlight that XL did do a delayed invade. They were able to steal away Mad's red buff, and now Dan is actually going to pass back up towards his top side to allow him to pass towards the bot side of the map. So they don't actually want to split the map, but Elyoya is answering back because he looks for a gank on the Nukeduck.
Nukeduck does have the flash and will use it to get underneath the tower. Elyoya takes 2 tower shots and is forced back down to his bottom side. Only Razorbeaks and Krugs available for him in his own jungle. And that's what he's going to do. In fact, only a single Razorbeak, just a single drumstick of chicken.
So, the thing for Elyoya here is he's obviously very upset that he's lost both his red buff and his Raptors, and he doesn't really have a lot of options when it comes to getting those back. I think that for Dan, though, he decided to do Krugs because he wanted to do a full clear top side so that he can actually get the top Scuttle Crab, because he realized that his bot lane doesn't have priority in this 2 versus 2, and he likely wouldn't be able to get back towards the bot side. But as I say that, he's actually, I believe, skipping his Raptors, now making his way towards the bot. He's pinging the Scuttle Crab, and he is suggesting that he actually wants to fight for this. But they won't have prio on bot. The Azir will have prio, won't be able to move first. Let's see how things pan out here, Medic.
Carzzy's going to take a big chunk of damage from Patrik. That Rift Scuttler is gone. Scuttle Crab secured for Elyoya. He's now going to push in towards this blue side jungle. Denyk in the right position to go for any fights.
So if Elyoya has a very big brain, which I kind of think he does.
He does have quite a large noggin.
He now, with that information, is going to know, yeah, you can see the ping on the minimap. He's going to know Dan didn't do a Scuttle Crab. If he has done red, blue, that means that he must, hang on.
Kryze getting forced out here by Armut now. So yeah, Kryze hasn't used his TP back to lane yet, whereas Armut has. Humanoid going to get dived on here in the mid lane by Dan, and Elyoya coming in from the side as well, knocked up immediately. Just a trade in the mid lane of damage overall.
So Nukeduck is now looking to push in this wave. Dan has lost half his HP, and now it's a battle for the second Scuttle Crab. Dan is going to face check.
TP available for Kryze. He uses it to the top lane, and Elyoya doesn't have a way to get away from this. And Dan is on the board. Early aggressive stuff here from the XL jungler.
So Elyoya makes a big mistake there, and I think that what Dan did was clever, because I think that Dan, I mean, okay, flash comes out from Armut there. Dan's pathing, hang on, I don't have time.
Kaiser going into the bot lane as well, as Patrik and Denyk are able to fight back. And Vedi, I think you have a moment right now to talk about Dan's pathing.
Dan's pathing was, meant that it was very difficult for him to actually get the bot Scuttle Crab, because his bot lane didn't have prio, right? So he loses bot Scuttle, but then he's decided that he wants to go get top Scuttle, but he realizes that he's too slow to actually get that because his mid lane needs to reset. So instead he ganks, hang on.
Flash, stun, shield of daybreak. Denyk locked in place, does have the flash to try and get away, but Carzzy is on the chase. Jumps back in, gets the kill. Patrik's going to try and turn this one back around onto Carzzy, but he's still got the heal. Patrik only has the cleanse. Carzzy down, Kaiser won't have the mana to get that final stun down, and Patrik's able to walk away.
Ends up being a 1-for-1 trade, and this wave is going to be very awkward for the MAD Lions bot lane, which means that XL answer well here in the bot side of the map. Dan now looking to continue his aggression.
Elyoya caught out. Humanoid on his way. Elyoya will use the Ghost. Humanoid coming in at the right time, but Dan's already got the kill. And I am loving this from the XL jungler. Last week, he really struggled to have an impact in the early game. You can see how much more of an impact Elyoya had than him. I'll take that down as we look at this replay once again.
Well, let's have a look back at this little fight. So the hook misses from Denyk, and Kaiser sees this as an opportunity to re-engage. Just flashes in with the Q so that he can chain that CC with his E. Carzzy then gets to reset with a W, and they're thinking, hey, we are chilling here. Now, Patrik commits to this fight, and I think he even knew that Carzzy had the heal, but he felt like that he could win out on this anyway, as Kaiser, I'm not sure if he had enough mana to be able to bring out any more crowd control, and even if he did, Patrik still has the cleanse, so he was likely going to win out on that regardless. So good stuff coming out from the XL bot lane.
But I do want to come back to that point about the difference between Elyoya and Dan last week. Elyoya was very active in the early game. You can see high gold difference at 15 minutes, high jungle proximity, that's how much time he spends around his laners, and high kills and assists, first in the league. Dan was 9th in terms of kills and assists in the early game, and you can see how much more impactful he has been here. XL out to an early 1,000 gold lead, Vedi.
And what I kept trying to explain with my early rambling was that
they're going to fight again if you try that again, Vedi.
He was quite clever with his gank mid.
There's a fight. This is what we're going to do every time you want a fight to start. You just talk about Dan's gank timing. Carzzy jumping in, Denyk overstepped, and he will go down. Mad Lions get their second kill on the board.
Well, this time round, XL kind of messed up. They wanted to contest for the next red buff, but mid was not properly pushed in. Denyk was completely isolated. He also had no flash, and Mad have a lot of engage tools, so he ends up losing his life as a result. Top lane is still just 2 supports now in top lane. I can hear top laners around the world crying that this is what this lane has become, and observers, the longer you're on it, the more upset you make them.
One of them is named after what top laners do.
Kryze.
Yep.
Right. They do in fact Kryze. So, junglers, way more interesting. Dan, don't gank top lane down. He's looking at it though. He knows Armut doesn't have a flash, but it's Lulu and Karma.
He has been spotted. Armut will know that Dan is in the area.
He's committed to this.
Control ward will spot him out.
He knows you're there, Dan. That's it. Back away. I think he was just waiting for his red buff to spawn, to be fair. No, he's going to do the golems instead. Never mind. Ultimate comes down in mid.
I think we're okay. I think it's just a wave clever ult, Vedi.
Yes, I think you're right. Humanoid had no mana left, which means that he's just going to use that as an opportunity to go and grab the blue buff. Thought he would use it to reset, but that's going to be up and available, as Elyoya is going to likely hand that one over. The bot lane continues to trade. Could we have a quick look at the gold observers? Because obviously it is very even right now, but you can see a difference in the jungle in favor of Dan. Top lane slightly in favor of Kryze. The bot lane with a slight advantage in favor of Mad. So a pretty even distribution across the board. Top side advantage for XL, whereas mid to bot side in favor of Mad for now.
Yeah, just a slight lead overall in some of the lanes. I will say, something I have liked here from XL is they've kept Humanoid a little bit more neutered than he was last week. He was roaming around all over the map, didn't spend much time in the early game in his own lane. But of course, something like an Orianna will spend a lot more time in lane than an Akali, which is what we saw Humanoid on last week. Question is whether he'll be able to influence the game towards the team fighting stage. Neither team deciding to go for an early dragon here either. Vedius, both of the junglers looking for ganks rather than those neutral objectives.
Well, I think both sides are in a bit of an awkward spot where XL would love to get the Drake, but their bot lane very rarely ever gets prio in this 2 vs 2. Whereas if Elyoya starts it and a fight kicks off, Elyoya thinks we're actually weaker right now and we'd probably lose the skirmish, especially considering how strong Dan is. So it seems that that's kind of why neither team actually wants to go for it, because like for various reasons it's not optimal. So Mad are now making the decision to let's just swap to top side. Let's use our tempo to actually play towards, we got the earlier reset, we can actually get onto the objective first. Yeah. Humanoid was able to go back to base, TP back in, and now has been able to spend some money.
Is Armut going to TP in?
But XL are willing to fight. They've answered. The Herald has not been started off yet. 5 members strong. XL are saying, we want this Herald. How will Mad respond?
Well, Mad aren't a team usually to back down from a fight, and right now they are stepping into the river. Humanoid is on the wrong side of mid lane, currently forced back by Nukeduck. The shockwave coming out onto Nukeduck to try and force him down. That wasn't a farming one, Vedi, but the Rift Herald will go over to Dan. XL secure it. Armut in the bottom lane didn't burn his TP. Elyoya and Kaiser here looking to try and catch out the XL bot lane as they work their way back towards top, but with the blast cone, XL will escape. Oh, Dan can audacious charge over the wall. Looks like that was 2 plates on bot side for Armut, so about 320 gold for MAD out of that Rift Herald play.
You can see that the top lane gold swing has now gone in favor of Armut. MAD didn't want to overcommit for the Herald, and as a result, MAD, in the short term, have been able to get themselves a very slight gold advantage for now.
I mean, I love being able to calculate that sort of thing. Obviously, looking at how many minions were killed during a Rift Herald and how much pressure Humanoid got in the mid lane is a bit more difficult, but when you can see a tangible MAD Lions got 2 plates for XL taking that Rift Herald.
They got 3.
Oh, they got 3 plates for it. Okay, so overall they got 480 gold.
Yeah.
Now XL have the Rift Herald. They have 3 minutes before plates fall. Can they get more than 480 gold out of this Rift Herald? And if they can, then good job them. The Rift Herald is worth it. If they can't, boo XL, your Rift Herald play wasn't worth it.
There's also the slight thing of XP as well.
Yeah.
Armut was sitting in alone, isolated, while Kryze was grouped up with his team. But Kryze
Those
also
are always harder to track, though.
Yes,
So.
exactly that. I very much agree with you. But that's always the risk with a Rift Herald. You know, it is a large amount of investment, and will the return be worth it? And I'd say against a champion like Azir or Orianna, if you can get a significant number of plates against champions like these, then it really is worth it, because then there are these other extraneous variables that are difficult to deal with, and the fact that these are long-range champs that have strong wave clear that are difficult to siege against. So using things like the Herald to be able to break open those objectives is extremely valuable, and not always as tangible as just the gold that you're able to get from something like a Herald.
Very true. Dan going for the Cloud Drake here as well, instead of deciding to use that Herald straight away. Let's have a look at where we are across the board in terms of items. Gold Drinker first for Dan. He's got 2 of the kills for his team, so it makes sense he has a little bit more gold than everyone else. It looks like it's going to be a Divine Sunderer for Elyoya, Kraken Slayer on the Tristana, and the Shurelier's Reverie first for Armut there in the top lane, Betty.
Support so OP, they're being played in other lanes. Medic, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it just proves that you need more gold to be a good support. Give me more than one item a game, Riot!
It literally
Give me more than one item a game!
Medic, there are 4 supports in
Quests,
the game.
items do not count
There are 4
as
supports.
items.
Support's broken, Medic. I think
That's
that's
not
the
true.
real moral of the story here. Why would you play a Bruiser top lane when you could play Karma Lulu? That's what this is saying, Medic. You're taking over. Support's OP. You have to accept it. Anyway, Heralds get dropped in mid. We talked about this is what we would like to see. And now how many plates will Nukeduck get off the back of it? That will be 3. Which means that it is technically an even trade.
Yes.
But then it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Investing in this mid lane, as Kaiser kind of looks for Nukeduck. Will he be able to spot him out? Even if he can, looks like he's not going to commit for anything too dangerous. The fact that you're able to get this damage down is very valuable against these long-range, high wave clear mid-lane mages, because it then makes sieging that mid-tower switch easier a little bit later on into the game. Once you take that mid-tower, things like jungle invades suddenly become a whole lot easier, and you can start progressing much further forward in the game.
And we'll say XL have been able to hold MAD Lions at bay for the majority of this game so far. 14 minutes in, only 5 kills on the board. The expectation usually is with a MAD Lions game that you are just a little bit more bloody, but they have not been able to find all of the fights that they wanted. Of course, having double support usually means that you are not quite as bloody in the early game, but for the moment, XL doing a good job of getting down ahead, finding the fights that they wanted, and starting to chip away at some of these towers.
So items are starting to be completed.
That they are. That's how League of Legends works.
Yes, they are.
Been casting for 5 years now.
Yeah, I'm just, Medic, I do this thing, right, when I'm casting. You know, like, I tell a story, you know?
Okay.
It starts with the foundation, you know?
Once upon a time.
No, not that dramatic.
On
like,
a rift
items.
far, far away.
No, it's more like items.
Senator Palpatine decided
Well, now you
to
just-
give you gold for minions.
Copyright.
DMCA. Quick. Monka
Saying, like,
TOS.
you have to kind of like build this foundation, you know, to make items, and now being complete. You know, like in football, how they always say like, you know, Bale with the ball. Now, moving up the wing. You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of doing that. We're building up to a momentum. And if you hadn't interrupted me, right, we could have set up the story now about how Carzzy is going to likely take the first tower of the game, and is going to be given a lot of experience, and he's being denied.
So you don't
rather,
like it when I
a lot of
interrupt you in the middle of these sorts of things?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
So
Also,
now-
I didn't realize you watch football.
I mean, I watch Bale and Wales.
You watch Bale and Wales. He's more of a golfer than a footballer, but I'm sure you wouldn't know that. First tower of the game goes down to MAD Lions. 15 minutes into the game, they will secure it, as it has been a relatively slow start for both of these teams. Fnatic versus Vitality game 4 today. Former teammates face off. You know, Selfmade versus Whippo, Selfmade versus Hylissang, Selfmade versus Niski, Selfmade versus Upset. Unsurprisingly,
Selfmade versus Fnatic.
it's a 1v4 for him.
One man, one destiny. But that game will be happening later on in the day, game 4. For now, let's focus back in on our game here today, Medic. So you can see I'm once again using that voice, which kind of like sets the steam.
Sets the steam?
Sets the scene.
Sets the
Quiet, calming, soothing to the audience.
Yeah, I don't usually go for that sort of voice.
Quite right. So,
What ho, Toodle Pip.
quiet. As
Quiet.
we now set the scene. So MAD are looking to clear out vision as they set up for the next objective in the Drake. As mentioned earlier, first items have now been completed across the board. MAD believe that they are ready for a fight. XL in the similar position. Suggests that at the next dragon, a battle of wits and might and skill will unravel. Shockwave now released.
Why are you a posh Englishman?
I'm not.
that was very Attenborough-ious right there.
It's soothing. It's
Shockwave
calm.
now released, and here we see XL stepping into the river once again. They will try to regain their territory from the invading Lions. XL have struggled in the past against a pride as strong as these, led by the rare Turkish lion, Armut. Yeah, MAD looking
I was
to
really
get back into
enjoying
the-
that. I thought you would keep going. It was very clever, you know, the Mad Lions and the Lions and the Pride, and they was all very good.
It's
I was
actually
very
really bad
impressed.
for your vocal cords.
But the fact that you came up with that on the fly, very well done, man.
Thanks,
Very
mate.
enjoyable.
So,
Here we
Patrik
go.
going in, looking for Kai'Sa, but he's stunned immediately, has to use the cleanse. Elyoya was on the Dragon, Carzzy. You can see how Mad Lions a little bit split up here. XL pushing in, Nukeduck doesn't have the Emperor's Divide quite up yet. Mad Lions trying to regroup, trying to get back together, trying to find an avenue to attack, to pounce in. As Dan is the only one from XL still on that dragon. It's reset the solar flare on 3! Bring home the hammer! As XL just evaporate in front of the Mad Lions. Carzzy jumping forward. He's looking for more. Denyk will just survive as Mad Lions are now being forced back. Nukeduck and Patrik still very healthy, still very much alive. Elyoya trying to step back in, but he doesn't have the smite, he doesn't have anything. XL will get the dragon, but Mad Lions made them pay.
Kaiser played that beautifully. Oh man, a 3-man ultimate followed up by the Hecarim. The wombo combo comes through. The Shockwave was not available because Humanoid used it earlier. If he had, the entire team would have been wiped. But this play from Carzzy, man, what is he doing? Like, he's clearly trying to get that kill onto Denyk, but it was so greedy, so unnecessary, because with his death, that means that MAD cannot secure themselves the Drake, and he really threw the fight. We saw this from him last week against G2.
Yep.
He E'd into the front line of G2 right around a Drake and gave away the game. A huge swing point in the momentum for that last matchup, and like, we need to see this restraint coming out from Carzzy, because we saw it in the last regular season too. He didn't have the best performance. We were very critical of him, and while he did step up in playoffs, stepped up in MSI, it seems that coming into these first 2 weeks, his over-aggression is getting the better of him.
I mean, it's always been an aspect of Carzzy's character and of the Mad Lions character that they like to go for these fights. They like to go for that little bit of extra aggression where they can find it. Second dragon of the game went over to XL. They have a mountain and a cloud in their inventories. Rift secured for the Mad Lions. They have about 1,000 gold lead overall. But Patrik is chipping away at this mid lane tier 1. That can change pretty sharpish. Where are we in terms of items and CS? Pretty even across the board, about a 20 CS lead for Humanoid in the mid lane, but both those mid laners have already finished their Ludens. Top lane, relatively even as well. Looks like both of them are going the Shreddia's route to start. I wonder if Armut will go for the Staff of Flowing Water. I quite like it alongside an Orianna. The extra magic damage that you can get out in prolonged teamfights can be very helpful, but of course is still something like the Ardent Sensor if you want to buff up your Hecarim and your Tristana in later game fights.
It's very true. Could be good. We'll have to wait and see as he looks to reset relatively soon. But for now, just both teams contesting for this mid wave. Neither tier 1 tower in the mid lane has gone down. You can see Humanoid's moved off to a side lane. This is a good opportunity for XL to actually look for a fight. Dan is hovering around the flank, looking for some backline access. But as we mentioned, you can see how difficult it can be to siege with these two compositions, relatively short range Patrik, a lot of crowd control coming out from both supports, but both mid laners right now playing on a side lane. And I will say, the problem with supports being in top lane is that there's not a lot of side lane presence.
I thought supports were OP. Do they not have presence everywhere? Denyk looking for the hook onto Kaiser. The Mantrid Inspire, or just the Inspire there from Armut will shield him up. Would like to see a Serpent's Fang at some point from someone on XL, either it be Dan or Patrik, just to reduce these shields, because an Orianna and a Karma are going to be shielding for so much as these fights go on. Mid lane tower took a charge from the Rift Tower, doesn't go down. Bot lane tower secured by Nukeduck. The gold within 1,000 between these two teams. Not something I think I really expected coming into this game. I thought MAD Lions would be a little bit more explosive to start, but they are scaling well and their comp does scale as the game goes on.
It's just the nature of
Noah
top lane versus
Karma top lane.
Karma top lane.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's a... I find it funny how, like, for a long time, you know, EU fans and EU teams would mock, you know, the NA RAM. And then they pick support top lanes, and now they're forced into the NA RAM because they don't really have champions that can play on a side lane. And that's why you see Nukeduck and Humanoid, who typically, these champions, like, they can play on a side lane, they can catch waves, but they kind of want to be grouped with their team, you know? But that's just kind of the situation they're forced in, and that's why we're having this weird cross map that you're having between the two mid laners, where an Orianna and the Azir are actually split pushing, while the 4-man unit of XL and MAD are just kind of contesting for this mid wave. As Carzzy, his aggression once again, good damage.
Will be enough shielding to keep Patrik alive. As you say, very good damage there from Carzzy. He has the Phantom Dancer and the Kraken Slayer complete. New Armut was waiting just around the corner as well to shield him up if he went a little bit too deep. 30 seconds on the Ocean Drake. Patrik has just reset. No ult for him to dive onto the back line in this next fight if it comes to it. Humanoid continues to push in the top lane. Carzzy will clear out the vision around the Baron, and looks like MAD might look to take it. Of course, 2 supports helps you in tanking that Baron. The shields from Karma will be monumental when it gets towards making sure you do not take too much damage from a big objective. But XL maybe giving up the Ghost on this mid wave to gain control of the bot side river. 3rd dragon of the game, it would be an Ocean for them. Nukeduck can do it pretty cleanly by himself. Void Seeker from Patrik will spot out the waiting Pride of MAD Lions. Top lane tower is going to go down as Humanoid takes it.
The classic cross map. It seems that MAD right now have decided that they will just give up this Drake. They do not want to fight for it, and they'll look to fight for the 4th one instead. Always a risky position to be in, because now you're going to be forced to fight for that next objective.
Gonna go.
But they're going to flip on the Baron. Humanoid has come down. They're going to start this one off. No vision in the pit right now.
Nukeduck's going to have to TP in here. He's gone back to base, has the TP. XL do not know that this, well, they know it's happening. They just don't know how low it is right now. Look at that ball. Watch the ball as Kaiser goes in. Solar Flare's going to go down as well, but Denyk is the front line for XL right now. 1 down. Shockwave only hits onto Dan. And there's a re-engage opportunity. Nukeduck. He could slide, he could glide, he already takes down 1, he's looking for Armut as well. Onslaught of Shadows has been used, Kaiser trying to get into the back line as well, and Patrik is down. Nukeduck slides in, but he can't quite get the damage down that he wants. Instead, it's Dan, the man for XL, a double. Make it 1 more, give him the triple as Dan secures it. XL clean up the bite.
Nukeduck does such a great job over the wall with his Azir. I was skeptical about how it would work in this composition, but his positioning was fantastic. Let's again look at this engage from MAD. So they used the Baron to force a fight. They actually forced the engage onto Dan, but remember his ultimate makes it difficult to follow up, so he mitigates and tanks so much damage without any real follow-up. Denyk does end up losing his life, but then the Shockwave is now gone. A lot of threats disappear from the side of MAD. Look at the positioning here from Nukeduck. Over the wall, he just melts through Humanoid and Armut. Armut's just standing there, not entirely sure why, but he ends up losing most of his life, and then XL go for the clean re-engage. Nukeduck with a good ultimate to knock multiple members over the wall, and with Humanoid and Carzzy dead, the damage is gone, and XL are able to come in and clean up. Beautiful fight for XL.
And it's why having something like the Xin Zhao or even the Hecarim alongside one of these supportive top laners is so deadly, because the Lulu is there for the shields, for the movement speed, for the attack speed, for the wild growth, for the heals, and then Xin Zhao can still put down DPS even if your AD carry is dead. Of course, Nukeduck doing a stellar job in that last fight, as well as you so readily pointed out, Vedius. 2-0-3 Void Staff Banshees, Luden's complete. Baron remains here for XL for 2 minutes more, and we'll see how much more they can get out of this Red Bull Baron power play. Importantly for them, there's only about 40 seconds between their Baron buff falling off and the Ocean Soul being available for them. So if they can use this Baron buff to gain priority to get deep vision in, they then have a very small window where MAD can try and push back out those waves and gain control of that bot side river.
setup right now for XL. Looks pretty promising. MAD doing a good job of still contesting that wave as Nukeduck moves off to his side. He doesn't have the TP. And this is always those windows where you're like, hey, could MAD look for a fight? But a couple members just reset, so they're deciding not to go for it. You will notice an Abyssal Mask on top of Kai'Sa. When you immobilize champions, it does give you bonus damage. So if you see it in your solo queue games, it is normal.
It's giga broken, Vedi. It is like, if you can get the goal for this as a support, usually I go second item, you can't go first item. It is so darn strong on a CC support. Leona, Alistair, it's so good. Just grab it for yourself as XL. Look for this top tier 2. Nothing on the other side of the map to play around. You can see Humanoid has pushed in that bot wave, but XL very happy just to go through turret after turrets. They do have a double cannon wave here. Looks like Patrik and Nukeduck have decided to back away, and the rest of them will reset as well. Gold lead, about 1,000 here for XL with 46 seconds left on the Baron. Overall, the Baron actually a net equal for XL. You get 1,500 gold from taking it. You can see they've only had a Baron power play of about 1,400 gold. So actually lost 100 gold across the map, across the course of the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, they weren't able to push too much off the back of it. I like the way in which MAD actually contested a lot of the waves too. But Elyoya being only level 12, whereas Nukeduck is level 16.
Whew.
You can see how it's going to be difficult for him to find some strong engages. Right now, I don't think he actually has any magic resistance. If our observers could just quickly click on Elyoya, we can have a quick check. He is currently 69. Very nice. He does have the Randuins and the Merc Treads, but it is not a huge amount. Though Nukeduck is really the huge threat in these upcoming fights, and can MAD actually get on top of him? We've seen the power of their wombo combo before. We know that Kaiser is currently playing on form, Shockwave.
Only onto Denyk, he can use the anchor, missed the turret. It's a stationary target, but I'm pretty sure it moved a millimeter to the right there, just to mean that Denyk couldn't quite land his anchor. Now he'll try and escape. Mid lane tower's gonna go down. MAD Lions setting up, pushing forward, pushing back XL. Away from vision. There are some very good flank wards here, Vedi. You can see just below where MAD Lions are, a couple of those red wards. Humanoid has TP, has the Emperor's Divide. Kryze has the TP as well, but the Lulu going into the back line isn't really what you want. Denyk has reset. As you say, the Shockwave used, the Solar Flare used here for MAD. They will turn their eyes towards the Baron. XL know it's happening, it might be gone, but yeah, before they can even get there, it's so fast. MAD Lions secure it's towards the Dragon, secure the Ocean Drake. XL will have to wait at least 5 minutes more before they can look for a soul. The wave is on its way towards the mid lane. MAD Lions trying to regroup, reassess their situation, but before taking that Ocean Drake, they will likely lose at least this tier 2.
I like what MAD did there. It was not going for a straight up 5v5. Instead, it was just kind of using their pressure to sit there and say, hey, we're going to chunk you out, force you to reset. And they just kind of kept the pressure on.
Yeah.
They didn't just force Denyk out, they actually then tried to catch Kryze out of position. They kept trying to make XL uncomfortable, basically. And then at the last second, when XL's like, oh, hey, they've just used a bunch of stuff, MAD like, ha, we took Drake by, and it kind of caught them off guard. So they very cleverly were able to deny the Drake without ever actually risking a 5v5 fight. And now, Orianna has a death cap.
Yeah, and if you follow any other esports, it's kind of like using your utility, right? You're throwing smokes, you're throwing flashbangs in, you're just distracting the opposition. The Shockwave coming out onto Kryze, he will be able to walk away. But it's just about getting the enemy off kilter, off footing, trying to make them a little bit apprehensive as to where to go, and then immediately you can turn and burn towards whatever you want. You can see how much damage as well that Rabadon's does. Kryze is chunked out, Crescent Guard coming out, Solar Flare used, there's the hook onto Carzzy from Denyk, and Dan's going to try and turn this one around.
It was like, your damage means nothing to me, and none of them were walking into his circle, so he just kind of tanked all that up. The ultimate was used from Kaiser, but again, MAD, even though they were down in gold, they've used their pressure well, and they've just been denying so much from XL. It's quite fascinating, isn't it, how XL felt like that after that fight, the game was like theirs, and now they're getting collapsed on.
Turret going down. Nukeduck have to use the Emperor's Divide perfectly here. Denyk is already down. Nukeduck tries to slide away, doesn't get over the wall. And that is a quick kill for MAD, and Baron is about to come up. Vedi respawning straight into the gaping maw of the MAD Lions.
Really good stopwatch from Nukeduck, but Kaiser is having a fantastic game. He is finding some great engages. His target selection is excellent. Outside of perhaps that first Baron fight, he's had nothing but a flawless game. Very clean stuff from the Mad Lions support, and now they get themselves the Baron with little contest.
XL back on their heels once again. About 700 gold behind, doesn't really matter too much right now, but we will see how much Mad Lions, whether they can do more with this Baron than XL were able to get out of their own. What turrets remain? Bot tier 2 for XL. Mad Lions will be looking for that. Also, all of the inhibitor towers on either side. In fact, bot tier 2 for both teams are the only outer towers that continue to stand. 2 minutes on the Ocean Soul for XL if they can secure it, and 2 minutes left on the Baron buff for Mad Lions. So a good window here for them to try and get some further leads. 4 items now on Carzzy Vedi. The rapid fire cannon, rapid fire cannon complete. Tristana, of course, the champion with the highest attack range at level 17, apart from a stacked up Senna.
I was going to say, the fact that he's an entire item over Patrik, rather, there without actually, I mean, having a huge CS advantage is pretty impressive. He does have a couple of kills under his belt, but that's pretty insane.
I'm going to say it here, though, Vedi. Where is the Serpent's Fang? Where is the reduction on those shields? You can see Carzzy doesn't have to be afraid of jumping forward because he's got an Inspire. Look at this shield. They can just about break it in the end. He has to flash away, but Denyk is going to be dead before much can happen. Oh, in goes Dan, and there goes Carzzy. The shield's not enough. Now the turnaround might come out. Humanoid stepping forward. Patrik just about able to survive. Dan diving onto the back line. Look at the shields on Humanoid. The Emperor survival shuffling back. There's 2 quick kills. Carzzy and Kaiser and Humanoid are all done for. Nukeduck slides in, and down goes Armut. The shields were not enough. Perhaps Mad were a little bit overconfident.
Great caster curse there, Medic. Perfect timing.
I mean, just before it happened, though.
Well, I think the biggest problem was that Elyoya was not with the team. He was sitting in mid lane. XL saw an opportunity for a great engage. They punished the fact that Carzzy used his flash very early on in the fight, and they end up coming out on top. And once again, we see XL fight back into this game. This will likely be the Ocean Soul unless Carzzy can get back in time. Now, Humanoid will be alive just before it spawns and will have the teleport. There is good vision set up around the entire bot side of XL's jungle. You can see all these controllers littered around the blue. They're going to push in the mid wave. Nukeduck is level 18. This fight is going to be a big one.
Okay. You say it's going to be a big one, Valée.
Are they not going to contest?
I don't think there's going to be a fight.
All right, I'm surprised.
So am I.
Thought that they would try to contest that, but I guess they're saying that they can't get there in time, which means that this will be the Ocean Soul in favor of XL. I was kind of expecting to see the little circles around their feet, but I'm quite confident they do have it. You can see it in the bottom left, that little icon, the Ocean Soul icon. But yeah, XL now feeling very strong. Kaiser on the flank, perhaps.
I mean, it's important as well because there's no grievous wounds on Mad. Like, no one on their team has a Bramble Vest or an Oblivion Orb or anything like that. So if XL are able to take some of these prolonged fights, they will just win because of the Ocean Soul healing that comes out as you put down DPS. Humanoid now level 18 on this Orianna. 3 items complete. Sun Disc goes down and immediately goes down as Mad Lions are able to chip away at it. 2.5 minutes on the Baron, of course. Ocean Soul does not expire, will remain on XL for the rest of the game. You can see that gold swing. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, Vedius, up and down more times than a yo-yo, but for the moment, XL very much in control. Elyoya stepping in, looking for Nukeduck Dan. Currently clearing out his Razor Beaks. Elyoya's going to step forward on sort of Shadows used as well as they look for Denyk, but look at the healing, look at the shielding, the shockwave coming out. Denyk is down. Patrik dives into the backline and immediately dies! Patrik dived into his demise and Carzzy is looking for more. Dan's going to be able to get one. Elyoya chunked out as well, and look at the healing there on the Xin Zhao. 127, 43, 80, going back in for Humanoid, but the stopwatch is big. Nukeduck though now dominating, and you just can't get through an Ocean Soul. Vedi, you were surprised they didn't fight it. Right now, Mad Lions might be surprised at just how much darn healing it gives. XL clean up the fight in the mid lane, only Armut left alive.
And you can see that Nukeduck is just completely untouched in these fights. The consistent damage dealer with Dan just continuing to soak up the damage. What a big difference in his performance from last week to this week, as XL right now are knocking on the door of Mad Lions base.
What a performance so far from XL as well. Mad Lions really struggling to find a way to shut down Dan in the early game to get the ball rolling the way that they usually would. And now XL take down that mid inhibitor. 35 minutes in, a minute left on the Baron. They have a gold lead. They have advantages just across the board. And it really feels very difficult for Mad Lions to get this one back.
So, once again, we see the aggression come through from Carzzy. He's going to jump in here, and he's going to get knocked up by Denyk, which interrupts his initial engage. Then Nukeduck avoids the ultimate, continuing to dish out damage, and Patrik, while diving in, ends up losing his life. But Carzzy then stopwatches, jumps out, and Dan sees his opportunity to get in. Look at how much damage Dan is just mitigating here with his ultimate, gets that initial execute. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, Matt can just disengage. But look, Elyoya is disengaging while Humanoid goes for the re-engage, and that then gives XL the opportunity to fight. Elyoya wasn't there. Communication was clearly broken down as Mad Lions was beside themselves as XL saw that as a clean opportunity to re-engage the fight and come out as the victors. Great polymorph as well from Kryze there at the very end. I believe he threw it down onto Humanoid, which means that he had no chance of escape.
Of course, the season is a marathon, not a sprint, and a single loss for Mad Lions today would not be the end of it all. That's why we're not going to blow it out of proportion. But right now, XL are looking to close out this game. Elyoya uses the onslaught of shadows defensively. Baron up, Mad Lions forced onto the back foot. Once again, XL will gain control of this top side river. And this would be a mammoth win for them. It's not a huge loss for Mad Lions. Obviously, it hurts, it stings a little bit, but you are only 4 games into the season. For XL to pick up a win against a team that is expected to be at the top of the table changes your likelihood of getting playoffs so much. You are beating teams you should not beat, beating teams that are expected to beat the teams that will be around you at the end of the season. Of course, it's not done yet. Still, only 2,000 gold between these two teams and a Baron on the cards. 2 minutes on the Elder. Carzzy, once again, those shields keeping him safe. Hook going just a little bit wide. XL. Oh, it's that ARAM you talked about, Vedius. Currently, all 10 players could have a handkerchief cast over them. They are so close together. Carzzy stepping forward once again.
It's just so difficult. No one wants to be that guy on a side lane. So easy for both teams to engage.
Solar goes wide.
Good damage on the Carzzy.
Nukeduck, in goes Kaiser. He's all on his lonesome. He's hooked back. The shockwave only hits onto Dan and Denyk, and those are not the targets you're looking for. Here goes Patrik. Shirelli is in, looking and trying to chase him down like an F1 car. Straight onto Humanoid, gets the double, gets out, and now Nukeduck is here for the follow-up. Carzzy knocked up. Denyk takes him out. Armut next on the menu. He's going to try and flash away, but you don't get away from that today. XL get 4 kills, and they're looking for the win.
Great team fight once again from Dan. The coordination just wasn't there in the 5v5 for Mad, and XL are able to come out on top. Impressive performance then, and a very important win.
A huge win for XL, taking down the LEC champions.
A very different performance from Mad this time round as well. Had a couple question marks around his pathing, but you know what? He made it work. He was able to find some very valuable early kills.
Yep.
Xin Zhao really got popping off, and I think you can see some of the power of Xin Zhao. He never really falls off into the late game. He always offers some element of damage. He's able to soak up a huge amount, and I feel like Dan was very impactful in these late game fights.
I will say it helps when you give him Ocean Soul and a Lulu alongside him, just to like...
But I think even prior to that, he was still impacting very much
definitely.
so. And I think that that was one of the big things that we saw between the Hecarim and the Xin. I'm not entirely sold on the Hecarim. Perhaps it just wasn't a great game for Elyoya. But a lot of question marks to be around Carzzy and his aggression, which definitely got punished today.
Yeah, just a couple of jumps too far forward. Your key player of the game votes at LEC on Twitter. Kryze, Dan, and Nukeduck as your options. Top side of the map for XL. All of them good options overall. I think... as a support main, give it to Kryze, you know, might as well. Misfits Gaming came out swinging in week 1, but faced their biggest test so far in our next game as they go up against spring finalists, Rogue. We'll start off with this one.
The summer season?
What about this one?
Summer season. Summer season.
How about this one?
That's a Beko fridge.
It's a Beko fridge. Oh, it is a Beko fridge. Okay. And this one?
Summer season.
You're suffering from a simple case of LEC deficiency. Now what I'm going to do is prescribe you a healthy dose of LEC Summer Season, about twice a week or so.
Welcome back to the LEC XL come up clutch today as they take down spring champions MAD Lions, and I have Kryze with me to talk about this victory. Nice shades, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Does it mean anything special to win against the spring champions? And what did you think about your performance against them today?
I mean, obviously it's a great achievement to win because our scrims hasn't been going very good lately, so it feels very good to win actually.
Well, oh, please keep going. You were saying something.
No, I don't have much to say.
All right, because you mentioned scrims and how they haven't been going well for you. How do you explain the results you had today then?
I think today was kind of an upset actually, because usually we play way better on stage than we play on scrims. So I'm not quite sure what happened actually, but they put me on Lulu duty, so I was like chilling entire game. I mean, Nukeduck and Dan really popped off this game, so I guess I gotta say thank you to them for carrying me.
I agree on the good performance from Nukeduck. I also think it's a team effort and you all play well here, but also the community chose Nukeduck as the key player of the game here. So tell me how it's been working with him since he returned, and yeah, how he played this game on Azir.
He has been pretty fun to work with. He's a pretty consistent player and he's very passionate. So, I mean, he's obviously a very good mechanical player as well. So I feel like people underestimate him, and maybe it's maybe this year it's the year of the duck. Who knows?
The year of the duck, finally. You say that Nukeduck is underestimated here. Do you feel like teams are underestimating XL also this split?
I mean, I can't judge them for placing us very low on like tier list, etc. Because we haven't really performed these last splits. So that's completely understandable, but hopefully we can prove them wrong.
Yeah.
We will see how it goes.
Especially with a game and a win like this. I want to come back on this victory actually, because you're telling me you don't actually know how you won and what was the difference between scrim and on-stage results. But I want to know, how was the atmosphere during the game? Because it was super close, right? Up until the last moment, we didn't know who would take this one. So how was it internally in communication, the team atmosphere, and how did you navigate through this win?
I mean, when we first got the Nash, we were like, okay, I mean, this game is pretty won already. But then we didn't really do much with the Nash. We got 3 turrets, I think. And then they got some good engages, and then they got the Nash. So at that point, I was like, kind of, oh shit, are we going to lose this game? But luckily, we turned it into our favor.
Yeah.
I think the team that engaged the first was way favored in this one.
It was indeed, yeah. And I also want to touch on the meta, actually, because they picked Karma first. You also picked Karma on red side first, which is unusual with the fact that it was only about supportive top laners here. And I want to know, what do you think about supportive top laners as a whole, their place in this meta? Because they don't have such a strong impact on side lane. So do you think it can become a trend?
I think supportive champions top can for sure get countered, but right now it's, I would say it's pretty strong, and I'm a big fan of support top. I played Ivern top, Lulu top last split, so I'm a big fan of the supportive champions. And I feel like I can just sit back and farm, and my team will carry me because I will buff them, and it works.
Sit back and chill, hence the shades, actually, now I understand.
Yeah.
But for now, yeah, Kryze, thank you very much for this interview, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes for Misfits versus Rogue. Stay tuned.